maybe we're live. I'm waiting to hear from Anna here. She can text me and let me know if she's seeing it on her end. Thank you guys for waiting. I'm not seeing any texts yet. If you guys can see me, go ahead and type in the message so we can know that it's actually working. Okay, here she comes. Yes, we're live. Yay! Okay. Oh, I can't believe technology is so funky right now. So we need to know if you guys can hear us, hear me. It's like we clicked on the live button, thought everything was set, and all of a sudden something wasn't working. So we just have to work out a few bugs. So let me know, can everybody hear me? Go ahead and type in the comments. Brittany, can you read the comments? Okay.
I can, yes I can.
Okay, so we have Anna at her home office. She's going to be answering questions and talking to you in the messages, and then I have Brittany over here who's reading the comments, and we'll read that, or reading questions, and she'll call them out to me. So make sure that if you have a question, okay, good, she says we can hear. Make sure that if you have a question, you use the capital Q so that she can see it really easily and call that question out to me. Yes?
Question. So
Yes.
we have another angle,
Okay.
and so we don't know if we can hear it when you're on the other angle.
Okay.
Can everyone help us and just let
Yes.
us know if you can still hear us?
You guys are going to run the tests with us. So we have another camera here, so you can see some close-ups, especially when I get my sewing machine up here. So we're going to test that out really quick, but while we're doing that, why don't I just talk about the face masks. So, oh man, what a crazy time, right? I have spent a lot of time at home. I spent 2 weeks in isolation because my nephew Matthew came from New York, and we needed to be isolated just to make sure that he didn't bring anything with him. So that was a while ago. I think it's been a month since we've been out of isolation. Well, in my basement, I actually found a couple of these, and I would have sent them down to the hospital, but they were already opened, so I didn't think they would want them just in case they were contaminated. And I wore this a couple times, but I'm just saying, it breathes really well. I love this because you can actually breathe through it, but it's just not very fashionable. So this one was a hard one for me to wear. Also, it kind of messed up my hair. And I know that when you have to wear these all day, it works really well to have the bands all the way around your head, but I personally prefer the ones behind my ears. So doing all my research, talking to my sisters, I have 3 older sisters, and all 3 were making masks for their kids and their families. I'll show you some samples here. This is the mask that my oldest sister Arlene made, who's done a lot of our beautiful sewing projects on our site. She made these for Matthew, who's here. And this is absolutely amazing. He's standing right back there. Are you making faces, Matthew? I might hand this to him because he might need it. Anyhow, and this is really great for if you need to wear a mask all the time, because this can go up over your head, and then it's easy to cinch. You don't have to tie it. It has this cute little clip that you can just, it's kind of like that outdoor wear clip. So this is a very similar pattern to what I used as well. Then my other sister, she sent me this mask, and this one, she actually put some wire in the nose. She used a twisty tie, and then I'm going to talk about her elastic, because this one we're actually using because it's genius. Then I made myself a few. I made my daughter a few, and I tested some, and they just weren't quite right. So I was trying some different elastics and gathering and pleating and whatnot, and one of my biggest problems, I was actually wearing this at the grocery store a couple days ago, and the biggest problem with this mask is that my glasses would steam up. So it was just kind of a hassle. This one I actually put some wire in it as well, but found a better thing to use. So let's talk about fabric. That's kind of my history of the mask, and then I'll show you what I've made and where I feel like I've perfected it for me. Maybe you guys have some extra things you can add to this. So first of all, you're going to want to buy some fabric, and I just have a stack here. This is all smaller pieces of fabric, 100% cotton quilting fabric, and you can order this online. This is actually from a local store. You can order from her. It's moderndomestic.com. I think it's only national U.S. shipping though. And then these I had, and you guys might recognize them. These 3 actually were for my wax clubs that I made, and I think we just posted those yesterday. So this is what I had left over. It was already pre-washed, and I decided to go ahead and make my masks out of those. So let me show you what I made. I have this cute little bag because, I don't know, I'm kind of a Marie Kondo fan. I like to KonMari my life. And I have these all folded in here, and I fold them like this partially because of the wire, and I want them to stay in the shape. And they all kind of nest together. I fold them, you know, sides first. It's almost like folding underwear, and then that up, and then they all nest into each other and go into the bag. So that's what I've made. Now, let's talk about the wire. So the wire over the nose, I found, is one of the most important things if you really need to keep that, you know, breath out of your glasses and getting those so that you can see. So some different things, some different options. The first thing I tried was just our floral wire. It worked okay, so that's an option. Of course, you're going to want to use what you have, right? Another option that one of my sisters suggested, well, one was a twisty tie, which doesn't have a lot of bend, but it's a little bit. Another sister suggested these chenille wires or pipe cleaners. And if you use those, make sure you bend them in half so you get a double wire, and that works pretty good too. Let's see here. But the wire that I liked the best was actually from the coffee bag. So I pulled these off of the coffee bags, and these are plastic. Now, I actually picked this one up at the grocery store. This is one of those bulk coffee bags that you can fill. This one's paper, and I wouldn't use this because when you wash it, it's going to disintegrate, the paper around it. So I feel like this plastic is the best. So I am saving, I cannot believe it, I'm saving all these little plastic coffee top bags that I can find. You might be wanting to do the same. I'll show you in a bit how this fits so well. So that's the one little hack that I found. And then the second one was the elastic, because I'm telling you, not all elastics are the same, and it actually hurts. This one here, it's okay, but it could be tighter on my face, but it really pulls my ear funny and it hurts. So, you know, I went through the different elastics. Here's just a thin elastic. Here's this elastic that I used. Another option that I think is actually a really good idea is you can find this at your craft store. This is, or also these are for hair ties. You know, they're tied like this with a little knot. You can untie those. You can cut them in half right down the line. They will fray a little bit, but that's a nice soft elastic. Another version. I think this is more of a lingerie. You can use your hair ties if you want to, but you'll want to remember you don't want to cut them, so you're going to have to sew that in. But the best elastic I found was from my second sister, and she actually sent this to me. This is swimsuit fabric, okay? And I've cut it into little thin strips, I would say about 1/2 inch wide. Then I just pull it, and it makes it round. This is the softest, nicest elastic that I found yet, so that's what I'm going to be using today. So I have 2 pieces of those. Do we have any questions, Brittany? I've been talking.
Right. So far, I'm not seeing many questions, just comments. If your glasses team up from wearing the mask, lower it a little and pinch the metal piece.
Right. So this is the thing. So this metal, this was just the wire. So let me show you what I've come up with, and then we're going to get in there and sew. So this is the last one that I made last night. I made 3 of them yesterday just to perfect the pattern for you. And the wider metal, first of all, works really, really well because it's almost 2 pieces of metal. Then what I wanted to, can you guys hear me when I'm doing this? What I noticed is that I need it to be tight against my cheeks, and to be comfortable, I want this line of the fabric to line up with the top of my ear as best possible. So here we go. And then since it's such a long piece of wire, you can actually shape your face. And you can see how it lines up nice. And then I wanted it a little bit under my chin. So that's how I designed the pattern, is to kind of fit the face a little bit more. And this is the big test right here. They told me I had to do this today, my team, when I was showing them on video. Okay. Nope, it's not steaming. So that's the test. So anyway, I love it. I love these masks. And now I have 3. So true story, when I was at the grocery store wearing this one, I had my little pink backpack on, and I had comments. People were coming over and asking me where I got my mask because they loved how I was coordinating. Yes, Brittany.
A couple questions about the wire.
Yes.
And fabric, but do you think 18 gauge wire is too thick for the nose wire? And where do you get the elastic fabric? So I guess that's not about the wire.
So the 18 gauge is not too thick. It actually is fine. However, I feel like you need more than just one little tiny line of wire. That's why I prefer this. And I don't know if you can find them all over the world, this little piece that comes on top of your coffee bag. Yes, Brittany?
I'm raising my hand just so when you're done talking,
okay.
you can ask me.
Answer me. So what I would do if you are going to use a wire, this is another trick that another teammate suggested. Cut the wire, let's measure it. Cut the wire about maybe 5 inches long, get some duct tape, lay them about this far apart, and then lay the duct tape over and then trim it so that you have 2 pieces of wire with the duct tape between. And I think that would work really well. So as far as fabric, what was the question on that?
So there's a few about what is the name of the elastic fabric?
Yes, okay. This is a swimsuit fabric, so it's actually made for swimwear. The most important thing about it is that it has a high percentage of lycra. And one of the things I noticed too is if I cut it one direction and pull it, I see this side and it's tight. If I cut it the other direction, it actually turns the other color, which is the blue. So, you know, if you do find a piece of this swimsuit fabric, you can even, if you have an old swimsuit that you're ready to toss because you want a new one, you could cut apart your old swimsuit or your child's swimsuit that they've grown out of. You just want this one layer. So it has a high percentage of lycra, and it's a synthetic fabric. You could probably use a cotton that has a lot of lycra as well, but the more lycra, the better. Yes?
That's actually mostly it. I'm looking at the other questions, and mostly it's about the elastic fabric and what that is.
Okay,
so.
Yeah, so as far as the fabric itself, this is called a fat quarter? Is that right? I'm not a quilter, so you can actually purchase these already pre-cut oftentimes. I know that they did have some at Modern Domestic, and you can probably get at least 4 masks out of one. And a lot of people also will do like one side one color and another side another color, like this one here, where today I just did one color, but you can do that as well. All right, let's get started making masks. I'll push over to the side. So today I'm going to use this fabric, and what I have already prepared, I've printed out the pattern and I've made some pretty intensive notes on the pattern for you. Make sure, the number one thing is when you print this out, make sure that it's 100% of the pattern, because if there's a default, it will print, if it's a PDF, it will print to fit the page, so it will make it slightly smaller. And you'll want to make sure and make it exactly the size, unless of course you're making it for a child or for a larger face, you can size it from there as well. So that is the PDF printable pattern, and it has a lot of notes on it. And then this is the SVG. This is, you know, back in the day when I used to have my clothing line, this is how we made patterns where we would cut them out of really heavy cardstock. And the notches are already marked in there, and I'll show you what those are used for. So all you'll do is you'll use this to trace onto your fabric. I want to talk about this really quick too. So this fabric actually has a pattern where the flowers are growing upwards. So if I made the mask this way, my flowers would be growing downwards. If that's important to you, just take note. And when you fold your fabric ready to cut, so flowers are, this is ground, that is sky. I'm going to fold this. I don't need to fold it all the way because I'm not going to use that much. I only have one piece to cut. So I'm going to fold that. And then I've already cut this one out. I've marked it. This is up. And you can see it here on this pattern too where I've marked it. And then I'll just place that right on top of my fabric. Now as far as pins, I just pulled, this is my Cricut marker. This is the marker. I have to put my glasses on so I can read this. Okay, this is the washable fabric pin. It's the Cricut version. You can get this at your fabric store. They have these that don't go in the Cricut machine. They also have pencils. I kind of prefer the pencil for most cases, but I can't see the pencil on this fabric. This one is fine. Just note that when you spray to iron, it does get pretty mushy. it will wash out. So I'm just going to lightly trace around my pattern. And then these little marks that I've cut out, all I need to do is just slide my pen right through there and use it as a marker. Now, if it doesn't show up enough, which it may not, I might also clip those. So, if you're using this other pattern, you might want to actually pin the pattern. Actually, I don't need this now because my marks are there. You might want to pin the other pattern to the fabric. If you don't mark it, it makes it a lot easier. I'm kind of sitting low. I think I'll stand up to do this. All right. And you'll want some nice fabric scissors. I have my scissors marked fabric and my scissors marked paper, and these are my fabric. Okay. Matthew, are you asking me to turn? I'm all okay if we have a little real moment here, you know? Okay, so.
Oh, there's, someone said, I saw someone add tassels to hers on the sides. She said because she's just so extra. Too funny.
That is really funny. It's when I was working with the elastic and I had some of the elastic sticking out, I thought, well, I could just leave it because it makes a little pair of earrings, right? So if you can't see your blue marks, you can go ahead and place that pattern back over. One of the things that I've discovered recently, instead of using pens, I love these little clips. Just love them. And I'm going to be using these anyway. So you can just make little marks with your scissors so that this is where we'll be folding the fabric so that we can slide the elastic right through. Okay. I've already cut my other piece. I love it. I have so much of this fabric that I am going to be making some more of these. I'm going to be making these really simple bags, and then I'll be making some zipper bags, and I'll show you guys how to make those in another class. You want to use every inch of your fabric, especially when it's so beautiful. Some of my favorite fabric brands, I love Cotton and Steel. Is a brand, they have the rifle, which this is a rifle print, and I also like Cloud9, which is a really beautiful brand. Okay, so here we are. We have all of our pieces ready to go, and the next thing we're going to do is sew them together. So I'm going to pull this up. My sewing machine. I need to move some things around though. I don't need all that anymore. That's about what we need. I was being really bold when I decided to do this as a live rather than an edited video. So, because there's always going to be mistakes, right? Okay, here's the sewing machine. I just have a basic sewing machine. We're doing straight stitches, so you don't need anything fancy.
I also want to make a comment just really fast. So
Yes.
we recognize that the angle that Matthew's at is really hard to hear.
Oh,
And so
okay.
when you're explaining something, I'm going to keep it on you to explain it. And then if you want to close up, just say close up and show us what you're doing for a moment.
Okay.
That way
Okay.
we can hear everything.
So when we switch
Because they can
cameras.
kind of hear you, it's just not as well as we'd like it. So.
Okay, I can't tell when you're on different cameras, so.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it on you when you have important things to say, but if you need something up close, just be like, let's get a close-up of
Okay.
that. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to show you here. So what I'm going to sew first is I have both pieces, both sets, and notice that I have the print facing each other. And this is just common sewing. When you're making a garment, you always want to cut the pieces, the two pieces, with the fabric facing each other. So I have both sets right here, and I'm just going to sew right down this curve. This is the face curve. And I've set this pattern up for a 3/8 inch sewing line. And if you don't know what that looks like, you can, pull out your little handy gauge. If you don't have one of those, your ruler will work. And you can check it on your machine. Now my machine is kind of funky in that the needle is not center. It's actually a little bit to the left, and that's just the way this machine is. This is a baby lock. I think that's the way they do it. But I can tell when I place my little gauge or my ruler under there where the edge of my fabric should be. And it's actually really easy because it's lined up with this mark on my foot. So you should have some markers on your machine to help you know exactly where. So this is set up for the 3/8 inch. And remember, when you're sewing, always, always, always backstitch. So I have a matching thread. Always backstitch every seam, unless you're planning to pull it out. And then I'll slowly I didn't pin these. You can if you feel more comfortable. Okay, then I'll do the same to the other side. And I don't know if you guys read, but there are actually 7 seams, or was it 8?
8. So
8, it might be 7, but anyhow, that's not very many. I think that's really quite fast. So here are 2. Okay. Now I'm going to move this down just so Matthew can see what I'm doing. I'll bring it back up in a minute. I think, when you're doing home sewing, one of the most important things to do to make it look as professional as possible is pressing your seams open. And, there are a couple of the masks I actually did top stitching on the center seam, but it's a real pain, so I'm not going to. Yeah, I'll move it over.
yeah, thanks.
And you guys can laugh at my little iron here. I was sitting there on my table and I thought, well, I don't really want to bring my big iron, so I just will bring this one, this little tiny one. I've never used it before, but I think it's kind of perfect for this. Make sure it's on. It's not on. Oh goodness, I think it turned off automatically. Okay, we'll let that heat. What can I do? You have any questions?
Yeah, I know, right?
The joy of live. Yes.
Let's see. So I don't see any big cues, but someone mentioned they've added a thin layer of interfacing to give another layer of protection and still be breathable. It says firms and helps fit as well.
Yeah, that's an idea. I mean, you guys can line them if you want to. You can put filters in if you want to. I don't, because, I don't know, it's hard to breathe anyway. But it's really your own call, just whatever works best for you.
Also, someone did say, do you recommend washing to pre-shrink fabric
Yes.
before cutting?
If I didn't mention that before, my apologies, I meant to. It is in my pattern. Always, always, always wash your fabric first, especially when it's cotton. And you will want to use cotton for these because it is the most breathable. Wash it. It not only shrinks it, but it takes out that sizing. There's a little bit of a stiffness, so it will soften it up a lot. You will want this really soft. Let's see if this is hot enough yet.
Also a big cue. Again, people, when you are asking a question, if you could write a big cue at the beginning just so I can see that, that would be really helpful. But someone asked what kind of iron it is, and where did you get it?
This is actually the new Cricut iron. It's for doing heat transfer vinyl, but it works as an iron. Isn't it cute? So I had actually just bought it because I'm working on a new video series and wanted to make sure I was well stocked with all the tools that I might want to use for the video series. So I have never used this before, straight out of the box. So what I'm doing as I'm ironing is I'm actually opening up the seam. This is important, and it's hard to do, I will not lie. It's a little bit hard to do when you're on this curve. But at this point, it doesn't matter, have everything else wrinkled, you just want to get that open. I should have had these pre-done. Any other comments, Brittany?
Let's
There's
see.
a lot of good ideas out there, and I love to hear what others' solutions are.
Yeah, mostly just a lot of accolades. Hello, Leah. Love your job. And they're from Brazil. That's for Marta. Someone's telling you where you can purchase the little cricket
Oh, wonderful.
iron. A bunch of different locations. Yeah, that's about it right now.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't, when I was ironing it with my big iron last night, it was even harder to get the big iron in here, so this is actually beautiful. So another trick that I would do, instead of trying to press it from the inside, I'll show you on this one. Another idea of getting that seam as flat as possible is to go ahead and iron it flat, but pull one side. I don't know if you can see this, Matthew. So pull one side to the side and just press it. So you get that seam as flat as possible. And then that will help you open it up flatter. And when you turn it over, it's already halfway there. Again, you can top stitch this if you want to. If you're going to top stitch, I would say this is the time to do it. I would do a row on each side of the seam. So I am actually like super duper shy. I know that's kind of hard to believe, but if you guys can see it, my face is like beet red right now. Because yeah. I feel like I'm in high school again. I think recently I've been doing most of the videos and lives with another person, and there's a reason.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Also, when you're doing lives, your fingers become butter. Everything gets a little flustered. Okay, I almost have it. So there's different ways to get this flat. Another thing, as long as you get that, the one I just showed you, and then all you have to really do is turn it flat like this, and then make sure that this seam is as flat as possible. You don't want it to bulk up. That's why it's preferable if you can have each side going a different direction, but it's nothing in the world if it doesn't. Because you're going to wear this, an hour in the grocery store, because that's about how long it takes nowadays to get groceries. Okay, so that one's ready. I'll do the same with this one. It makes a nice flat seam. Just go ahead and flatten it. It helps also to have a busy print because then you can't see any flaws. Okay, so the next seam that we are going to do is the top. So it's the one across the nose. Again, make sure that you always sew fabric print to fabric print. So I'll go ahead and place these together. The trick when I was in sewing school, sewing class, the trick was always to try and get your seams really, really perfect. So you'll want to spend a minute to line those up. Can you see that, Matthew? Okay, and then I'm just going to put a clip on it. Or a pin, if you want to use a pin. And I'm going to sew it so that I'm going to show you guys here, so go this way. So the top, the outside is a bit bigger than the inside. The inside's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to sew it with the outside down because I will sew across all of those pieces, and I'll show you why. There's a reason.
I also wanted to tell you, people are saying a lot of really nice things about how charming you are and relaxed you seem. So,
even though I'm bright red.
also a question.
Yes.
Would you tell us again what kind of fabric you showed earlier that is very stretchy?
Yes, the fabric is a lycra swimsuit fabric. So it's sportswear swimsuit, it's just a thin. Again, you can find it at a fabric store, they have swimwear fabric, or you can recycle an old swimsuit. Why not? Okay, so here we are. I'm going to line this up again. And I'm going to do the same amount of seam. It's a 3/8 inch. I'm going to start all the way to the edge, and this is kind of funky. I mean, I don't know if I have sewn very many garments where you actually sew raw edges like this, but it's going to work out. I'm going to go ahead and back stitch just because I don't want my seams coming out. And just make sure everything's lined up. And go ahead and this is not the easiest mask. I think of all the masks, if you want a super duper beginner mask, go ahead and do this flat folded version. This is the easiest to make, but you know, I wanted something a little bit more stylish. And that fit on my face really nicely. If you're a beginner sewer, maybe you could work yourself up. Alright, so back stitch. And I like to cut my threads too. Cut them when you're done, that way you don't have threads hanging.
What brand of cotton is preferred?
I don't know that there's a preferred brand of cotton fabric. It's really up to you as far as prints, but my favorite prints, I was saying earlier, Cotton and Steel is a brand that I like, and Cloud 9. Those two are two of my favorites. I also love to get organic cotton when I can. It's a little bit harder, especially in prints. But you just want to make sure it's 100% cotton. Quilter fabric, any type of quilting fabric will do the trick. Okay, now I'm going to flatten this seam and iron it out. And I'm not going to get in between like I did before because we actually are going to top stitch this. But what I will do, I have the larger piece, the outside piece on the bottom, and I'm laying it here on my ironing board. This is a trick that I learned in sewing class. You can use your fingers to flatten and push the edge out. And then if you see just barely the top of the seam on this side, you'll know that it looks nice on the other side. So I like to start in the middle and then just work my way out. You can put your finger behind and sort
Leah,
of press
could you
that
flip
seam.
that around and do it in this side?
No,
facing
because
direction?
then I'll have to be this way. Let me see. Okay, you mean like this?
Yes.
Oh boy, I don't know if I can do that. We'll see. That's gonna like make my mind go in circles. Okay, I don't know if I can, Matthew. I'll
It's
try.
fine.
It's you know when you have that habit of your hands doing certain things? I'll see if I can at least do it and then show you. How's that sound? Okay, so just very carefully press that. I think it's important again to press, get everything nice and flat. As soon as I iron it, I'll show you, Matthew, and you can get a nice close-up. And I'm doing this all the way down to the edge, so you can see my fold goes even to the edge of the raw fabric.
We have a couple questions.
Uh-huh.
So, let's see. Will spandex fabrics serve the same purpose for the elastic?
Yeah, the higher the spandex or lycra, the better. So test it. You know, not all spandex are the same. Test it and see if it works. That's what I would say. But I will say, out of all the things that I've tried, it's my favorite. It's the most comfortable. It doesn't hurt my ears. Can you see this, Matthew?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and if any of you are into astrology, I think it's very comical and fun. Tauruses, which I am, we love to be comfortable. We do not like to be uncomfortable. So it's a very important thing for us to not have scratchy elastic. Okay, so here's the outside, here's the inside. The next thing we're going to do is sew in this piece of wire. So I'm going to figure out, I can use my measuring here. We're about 5 inches, so at 2.5 inches, I'm just gonna give myself a little, I'm not cutting through the wire. I'm just gonna give myself a little notch on the plastic so I can see where that halfway point is. I can feel it with my fingers. Then I'm going to slide this right up between, I'll show you here. So here's the front of the mask, here's the 2 seams, and then here's the back. I'm going to want it to be on the side of the 2 seams on the front of the mask. That way it has 3 layers of fabric before it touches your skin. It's another Taurus thing. I don't like plastic on my skin when I can not have it. So I'll flip that around, grab a clip, clip that in the center. And then you'll want to make for sure that you get all the fabric aligned properly, so it's the same on both sides. Make sure that those little edges are flipped behind the plastic elastic. Okay? And then I'm going to bring out the sewing machine again. How many seams? We've done 3 so far? Is that right? Okay, so I broke a few needles doing this, but I think I figured it out. I think I found the trick. I have an option on my sewing machine. I'll let you show this, Matthew, where I can slow it down. You may or may not have that. If you do, you'll want to slow it down at some point. I'm going to start in the middle because I have a few stitches to sew. For this, I will actually be sewing about 1/4 inch, and I'll start all the way down to the end again. And I measured this out so that I would miss the wire and not stitch over the wire. You do not want to stitch over the wire or you will be changing needles. Okay, as soon as I get to my wire, which I have a little bit of time here, so the wire has, there's 2 wires on the edge and then there's a plastic in the middle, and I just need to make sure I'm staying on the plastic. The other thing too is with my fingers, I'll continue to push that plastic wire right to the edge so that there's not a gap. Now I've gone all the way down to my slowest, and I will very carefully just stitch right on top of the plastic. No rush. We don't have anywhere to go, right? Okay, make sure everything's all lined up. The nice thing about going slow is it gives you plenty of time to adjust if you need. Right now is a good time for a question, because we'll be here for a minute.
Yeah, so are you sewing clear out to the end of the top piece?
I'll show you exactly. We'll do a close-up as soon as I'm done.
And that was a little bit earlier, so I think they were talking about the last step.
Oh yeah, so I'm sewing from the end to the end, all the way to the raw edge. I do. See if that was the right answer for that question.
I don't know yet, but there's another question.
Okay.
I need a sewing machine. I see Leah's using a baby lock. Does she like it?
I love my Baby Lock. Yeah, absolutely. Baby Lock is an American machine, and I love that about them. They stand behind their machines. I have 3 Baby Locks, and probably will not change out. There's a lot of great machines out there. This one, start where you can. You can get machines fairly inexpensive. This one I think was about $350, although this one's no longer, this is an older machine. But I do like Baby Lock. There's a lot of good machines out there too. So you just find the one that you go to a fabric machine store when you can, obviously not right now, and test a few out and see which ones you feel the most comfortable. So I think the question earlier was, am I sewing all the way to the end? And the answer is yes. I just keep sewing all the way to the end. and it will make sense. Okay, so my wire is in place. Here we are. I love it. And what I've done too is I've actually made the back a little bit shorter so that when we sew it together, because it's gonna bulk a little bit inside, it gives it some space. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we're going to actually turn this inside out and we'll sew this back seam. I'll match the seams right here under the chin. Just put a clip on it, and I see some threads hanging. And then we'll start on this side and sew that seam. Again, I'm starting all the way, and I'm back to my 3/8 inch for this seam. I think I forgot to backstitch. Shh, don't tell anyone. The other thing I love about using clips instead of pins is you will never run over them like you might a pin. Again, I've broken plenty of needles sewing over my pins and my finger one time. I really did. Okay. Now we're going to turn it back right side out. I'm going to put this down so we'll do a little bit of pressing before we do our next seam. So all you have to do is get it started here. And you will have to bend your wire a bit. And that's okay. The plastic wire actually bends back really nicely. And then pull it out the other side. Okay. Almost there. I do like to use, is my iron on? Yes, yay! I like to use a lot of water when I sew, right? It just seems to work really well. Now this one you're going to have to do exactly the way I showed you last time, where you actually roll it to get that seam open and pressed. And you'll want it as tight as possible. I'll see if I can show you two different angles here, so Matthew can get it on that camera. Now's a good time for questions. I love this little baby iron, by the way.
The only question I see so far since the last one is, will I be able to watch this again on the weekend so I
Yes.
can see mine watch? Yeah,
Yes.
huge step.
So the question, yes, this will be live. We're going to leave it up, so it will be on YouTube until it no longer is. Until it's irrelevant, right? We're hoping that will be soon, but it may not be. So, and I'm pressing all the way down to the end again. I'm folding the last bit here. You can see I'm folding that. Pressing, pressing. So what I was doing, can you see this, Matthew?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was pushing it along the table, I would see how I can roll the seam. Can you see that? So you'll want to roll it as flat as possible and get all the excess out. One of the things that I actually forgot to do, not a big deal, but I actually love pinking shears. They're one of my favorite things. And initially I meant to pink this edge here because it'll be inside, it won't show, but if any threads come out, you'll see it. So we can still pink this one. I'm just going to barely hit the edge. again, just to make sure there aren't any threads that peek out. Makes it nice and clean. Love these scissors. Then, remember these little marks that we made? They're now on the inside, so you can't really see them as well, and that's why it was good that we used the scissors. I can see this one right here. See that, Brian? Matthew, sorry, Brian's downstairs. So you can see that little clip. I'll use that as my marker, and I'll fold that right on the edge. I want some water on this. I'll do that on both sides. So you can see why we wanted to sew all the way to the edge of the raw edge, because we want that seam to continue. Makes it really clean. And then I'll flip that over again and make a nice casing. And I'll tell you exactly how big the casing is. I mean, the little marks are to help you, but honestly, by the time we're here, you can't really see them anymore. So this is, we're looking at about a 1/2 inch. So there's 1/2 inch that you can slide your elastic in, which is perfect. That's what I was hoping for. Okay, Brittany, how many seams have we done so far?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm gonna guess 6, but I don't remember.
Okay, let's see. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, you win. Okay, so 5 seams, so it is actually 7, not 8. Put an extra one if you want. Okay, our last 2 seams. Look how easy this is, you guys. Other than the funky shape on the nose, the rest is really easy. I'm actually sewing it with the flap side up because I'll just stitch right along the edge. I'll go as close as I can without falling off the edge. That will make it nice and clean. Do my back stitch. This is a really important place to do your back stitch. Yesterday, we noticed that more grocery stores here in Portland are starting to put the masks people only. They call it, the one store called it Mask Watch, and they had a picture of Sasquatch with a mask on. I thought that was really funny. So, might as well do it in style, right? All right, clip my extra threads really tight. Don't clip the fabric though. And that is the 7th seam. All right. So the last thing we'll do is put this elastic through. And I'm going to use this. I think this is enough. Yeah, this is probably enough. I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. You might want to play with it a little bit. The nice thing is you can always add a different elastic if you want to. If it doesn't fit or doesn't work, you can change it out easily now because it's not sewn in. Okay, this is a fun little gadget that you can get at your sewing store. You'll place, I'm going to tighten that up just to get it to curl. You'll place just the end of your elastic into the clamp and then slide the little ring down to tighten it. And I love it because it's better than a safety pin. If you don't have one of these, which you probably don't, just use a safety pin. And just slide it right through.
Also, someone had a really great suggestion for us. Let's see, where did it go? Oh, another project idea for you. How about a surgical cat pattern? Yeah, I think that's a really wonderful idea.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what those look like, but I think that's a great idea. So here we are. For now, I'm just going to tie it lightly and size it to my head first before I make this really tight. And then once I know it fits me, I will clip the ends. Not, it has to be really, really tight. You don't want the ends to slide out. And then just slide the knot into the casing. So, do that on both sides. Okay. It's a little big on this one end, so it's a little tricky to get through. I'll go this direction. Yeah, if this were any smaller than a 1/2 inch, it would be too small. Okay, any questions while I'm doing this?
Right. Oh, what is that gadget called?
I have no idea. I think it's a threader, elastic threader. I can look it up. We'll put it in the link on the post. I think it's made by Dritz. They do a lot of these type of things. Okay, here we are. I think that's it. Are there any more questions that we need to add?
Oh, yep, we got another one
Okay.
here. What is the length of the elastic you use once you cut it?
I think, I have a piece about this long. So it was about 6 inches. And again, it really depends on the size of your face. Once I have it done, I'll show you how I can tell. Once I have it done, I like to fold a pretty nice point right at the top of my nose, because then I know I'm centered. And then place it on my nose, and then just press and fit. And I like it because you can fit over your cheekbones. And then that actually feels really good. Although I could probably make it just a touch tighter so it's snugger here. So there we go. And you know, everybody has a different size face. So you may want to adjust it just a little bit. Maybe try a piece of fabric that you don't care about and just do one side and just try it on, knowing that you'll have your seam allowance to make sure it fits you. You know, I only had me to size this too, so I made this to fit myself. But I think it's pretty adjustable, and it's really easy to make, as you saw. 7 seams, that's it. And using funny things like swimsuit fabric and the tops of coffee bags. So you can do this too. And yes, this video will be available, so you can watch it anytime. Again, you can watch and make along with me. Make sure that you share your masks with us. We love to see what you guys make. And use the hashtag #MadeWithLeah. And I think I'm going to come back sometime in the next few weeks, month, and I'm going to show you how to make this cute little case. It's very simple. I think that's probably about 7 seams as well. I like to keep my mask clean, so this is great for my bag. And also, maybe at the same time, I can show you how to make this very, very simple dot bag, which is, you know, a little higher, heavier duty, and it's beautiful. This is something that I use for my makeup too. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been fun. First time I've done a sewing video for you guys, and first time I cannot believe I decided to do it live, but why not, right? Anyway, so great to see you all, and we'll see you next time.